Most guys think they're one clean meal and 3 decent gym sessions away from being lean. Cute. The truth is actually, looking lean is way rarer than the internet makes it seem. Online, every second dude is somehow walking around with visible abs, perfect lighting, and a body fat percentage that apparently came from a calculator made of hopes and delusion. But in the real world, being lean enough to have clear muscle definition usually means getting somewhere around 15% body fat or lower. And according to DEXA data from over 9,000 American men, about 97% of men are above that. The average is around 27%. So if you feel like getting lean is weirdly hard, congratulations. Your body is not broken. You are just not living inside an Instagram Explore page. And getting under 12% body fat. That is a different level. That is not I switched to almond milk lean. That is your body is starting to file a complaint with management lean. It is so uncommon that your odds of becoming a millionaire may honestly be better than your odds of walking around truly lean year-round. But I wanted to see what it actually takes. So over 60 days, I went from 15.6% body fat down to 11.6% measured by DEXA. And using ultrasound, my abdominal fat dropped by almost 50%. Not because I found a magic food. Not because I did a forbidden ab circuit discovered in a monk temple. And definitely not because I confused my muscles, which is still one of the dumbest phrases fitness ever produced. I just followed a very specific system. But before we get into the system, you need to understand something important. Getting lean is not the same thing as staying lean. Those are two different games. Losing fat is the part everyone talks about because it looks cool in a thumbnail. Maintaining it is the part where your hunger energy, social life metabolism, and general will to not be miserable all start negotiating against you. This is why chasing 10% body fat because some influencer looks shredded in bathroom lighting can be a trap. Under 12% can look great, but it comes with a cost. More hunger, lower energy, more cravings, less room for error. Your body does not care that you want veins on your abs. Your body wants you to stop dieting and eat the donut. And this is where most people mess up. Most people diet backwards. They start gently when motivation is high, energy is good, and body fat is easier to lose. Then 4 weeks later, when they're hungrier, flatter, crankier, and emotionally attached to cereal, they decide, now I'll get aggressive. Brilliant. Very sustainable. Definitely not how you end up eating peanut butter from the jar at midnight like a raccoon with Wi-Fi. The smarter move is the opposite. You push harder at the start when your body can handle it better. Then you make the diet easier as you get leaner. Early on, you still have more stored energy. Your cravings usually aren't insane yet. Your training is still decent. So that is the best time to create a bigger calorie deficit. A simple way to estimate an aggressive fat loss calorie target is body weight in pounds multiplied by 10 or 11. It is not perfect because no formula is perfect, but it gives you a starting point that is at least less stupid than I'll just eat clean and hope physics gets involved. For me, my normal fat loss calories would have been around 2,300 per day to lose about a pound per week. But for the first week, I dropped much lower, around 1,200 calories per day. And no, I do not recommend that. That was for the experiment and also because apparently I enjoy suffering for content. After that first week, I moved up to around 1,900 calories per day for the next 4 weeks. By day 30, I was down about 6 pounds, visibly leaner, and still feeling mostly fine. But around week 5, the body started doing what bodies do. Breakfast stopped keeping me full. Hunger got louder. Donuts started looking less like food and more like emotional support circles. That was the signal. Because I had already made solid progress early, I did not need to keep forcing the same level of restriction. I added about 300 calories back in, kept losing fat, and made the diet feel less like a hostage situation. The most important part of the diet was protein. Every meal needed a real serving of it, at least a palm-sized portion. Chicken eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, lean beef, tofu. Whatever you can actually eat consistently without developing hatred for your own kitchen. Protein matters because when calories are low, your body is not just politely burning fat and leaving your muscle alone like a well-trained butler. If you do not give it a reason to keep muscle, it can start taking from that too. That is how people lose weight and still look soft. Smaller, yes, Leaner, not really. The classic skinny fat transformation, which is basically dieting hard, just to look like you need to start lifting. But I did not cut out carbs. I did not cut out fats. I just made smarter swaps. Fat is usually the easiest place to adjust, because it is calorie dense. Instead of 3 whole eggs, do 1 whole egg plus egg whites. Instead of a full avocado, use half. Instead of fattier meat at dinner, go with chicken or shrimp. Carbs got adjusted too, but not murdered. My pre-workout oatmeal went from 1 cup to half a cup. A 300-calorie wrap became a lower-calorie wrap. Dinner rice got cut in half and vegetables filled the space, so the plate didn't look like a punishment. And weekends mattered, because pretending you will diet perfectly through every dinner, birthday, family meal, and social plan is adorable, but not real life. So I used planned flexibility. 1 weekend meal with 500 to 800 extra calories. Not a binge, not a cheat day, which usually means eating like you're trying to punish the fridge. Just a planned, bigger meal that keeps you human. Then, training did its job. Diet made the scale move. Lifting kept the muscle. I trained full body, but I gave extra attention to weaker areas. For me, that was chest. I kept chest volume high and slightly reduced volume for stronger areas like back and arms. Because when you diet, your goal is not to prove how much pain you can tolerate. Your goal is to send your body a clear message. Keep the muscle, burn the fat. And this is where most people mess up next. They think cardio is the magic fix. It can help, but it is not magic. A workout might burn fewer calories than you think, and then you unconsciously move less the rest of the day. So instead of relying on heroic treadmill suffering, I focused on steps. My target was 8,000 steps per day. Not because 10,000 is bad, but because the best target is the one you will actually hit. Going from 4,000 to 6,000 steps can burn roughly 120 extra calories per day. That sounds tiny, until it adds up across weeks. Fat loss is usually not one huge dramatic move. It is a bunch of small boring moves that quietly beat your excuses. Now, here is the part nobody wants to talk about because it ruins the fantasy. After the diet ends, you do not just go back to eating like the old version of you and magically keep the new body. That is how people do a transformation. Take the after photo, post the caption about discipline, and then quietly regain everything while pretending they are bulking. When you lose weight, your body burns fewer calories. You are lighter. You move less mass around. Your metabolism adapts. Your hunger signals get more annoying. Basically, your body becomes cheaper to run, which sounds efficient, until you realize it also means you cannot eat like you did before and expect to stay lean. Before the cut, I could maintain around 2,800 calories. After getting leaner, maintenance was closer to 2,500. And if I wanted to force myself to stay around 10% body fat or lower, I would probably have to live closer to 2,300 calories. And personally, no thanks. I like being lean. I also like having a personality training hard and not thinking about pastries like they owe me money. This is why a post-diet strategy matters. Losing the fat is not the finish line. It is the handoff. You need to slowly move into maintenance without turning one successful diet into a 2-month detour before you return to the same habits that got you fluffy in the first place. The biggest mistake is celebrating the end of the diet by removing every habit that made the diet work. Protein disappears. Steps drop. Training gets lazy. Weekend flexibility turns into a 3-day food festival. And then people act shocked when the scale starts climbing. You are not cursed. You just stopped doing the things. For me, the 8,000 steps stayed. That was non-negotiable. Not because I wanted to be a walking productivity influencer, but because daily movement is one of the easiest ways to keep maintenance calories higher without making life miserable. Steps are not glamorous, but neither is regaining 10 pounds and blaming metabolic damage because you stopped moving. Lifting also stayed. Protein stayed. Flexible meals stayed, but they stayed planned. The goal after a diet is not to keep suffering. It is to keep enough structure that your body has a reason to maintain the result. So here is the real formula. Start the diet with momentum. Eat enough protein every meal. Reduce calories through smart swaps, not by deleting joy from your life. Train hard enough to keep muscle. Walk more than your average office chair hostage. Use planned, higher-calorie meals so you do not eventually snap and inhale a pizza like it insulted your family. Then when you reach your goal, do not vanish from your own system. Because getting lean is not proof that you found the perfect hack. It is proof that your habits were aligned long enough to create a result. And staying lean means keeping the habits that matter while making them easier to live with. You do not need to be extreme forever, but you do need to be honest. If you want to get lean, copy the system. If you want to stay lean, build a life where the system does not collapse the second motivation leaves the room.